Hello, welcome to Wetpixel Live. My name is Adam Hanlon. I'm the editor of Wetpixel. I'd like to introduce you to Alex Mustard. Hi, Alex.
Hi, Adam. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. And today we're going to discuss what we carry in our toolkits in the field. So what tools and spare parts we carry in order to keep ourselves shooting when we're out on assignment or on workshops or group trips. And one of the things I wanted to mention first of all is that the contents of these toolkits will vary depending on what we're doing. So certainly when I'm out by myself or as opposed to trying to look up, or as opposed to looking after a group, I carry a lot less stuff. So obviously the contents of these kits will vary depending on where we are and what we're doing. So Alex, you were showing.
I would sort of add to that point in that at the same time it also varies, I think, very much based on luggage allowance.
Yeah.
As we discussed several times, we always want to take as much camera gear as we can on board. And while it would be wonderful to have a spare everything on a trip, the reality of being able to do that is limited by luggage allowance.
Yep.
And as a result, I think that has a big bearing on things. And I certainly think not only about who I'm looking after on a trip, but also what I will be able to source easily locally. Yep. And so the things I would take maybe if I'm visiting a dive center in California would be totally different to if I was joining a liveaboard in the middle of the Pacific Ocean.
Yeah.
So I think that's. Sorry, I cut into you before.
No, it's a good point. I mean, obviously there's obviously a balance here between the weight we're allowed to carry, because every extra tool you carry is one piece of camera gear that we can't carry, and there has to be a balancing act between the two. So one of the things I think that's really important that we carry, and in general I recommend everyone does this, is a set of spare O-rings. So generally these happen to be ones for housing, but this is for my Seacam D850 housing, but obviously that would also include spare O-rings for any accessories you carry, for example strobes, but anything else that you plan to carry, you should carry at least one spare O-ring pretty much for almost everything. I think sometimes you can overlap because a lot of the O-rings on housings are the same, the buttons, or you probably use a similar O-ring, but you should be able, at the very least, to be able to replace a leaking O-ring on the housing wherever it occurs. How about you, Alex? Do you carry spare O-rings?
Yeah, I think the thing I'd add is they're very light, so easy just to sit in the bottom of this bag. I usually don't even bother unpacking them from my bag. They go in, they're in my bag. They sit on the bottom of the bag. Yeah. When I arrive in the destination, they stay in the bag. Yeah. I'm not intending to use them, and I very rarely do. Yeah. But I feel a lot better having them there. I think probably the most important one to have is the housing one.
Yeah.
The ports. Obviously, all ports for your housing take the same size O-ring, so you only really need one spare. And you could argue you probably don't even need a spare because you can always borrow one off another port.
Yeah.
So it's the housing one is the one that you won't be able to easily find a spare on the boat for.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's really the critical one, I would say.
And I think that's a good point when we're talking about spares is you want to consider what other photographers might have with them as well. And one of the things that I often see people is, particularly with the vacuums, is people carrying multiple vacuum pumps just in case vacuum pumps fail. And actually sometimes they do. They split the rubber bit, split on the end. But chances are nowadays most boats full of photographers, each photographer will have one of these. So with that in mind, you're always going to find one. So there's no point in carrying multiple vacuum pumps, for example. It's something that you're going to be able to find from other photographers around. So
yeah, absolutely. And it's all about that balancing the weight thing. We'd all take all the spares we could possibly have, but it's about being realistic. I was going to show you some of the things I nearly always travel with. One of the first things I always put in, although it's not the lightest thing, or it's not heavy, but it's weighing nothing, is a multi-tool of some sort. And this is the one I use. It's got pliers, knives, screwdrivers, scissors, all that sort of stuff. It's got a file on it, all useful stuff for fixing stuff. I do take the attitude that every boat and every dive center is going to have a lot of tools as well. So I certainly don't take any bigger tools. I don't take a diver's toolkit because you're going to be in an operation that has to fix gear all the time. So you're going to be able to find those tools, and it's just unnecessary weight on a trip. So, but that gives me everything I want in my fingertips without, when I just need a tiny tool, having to go off to find anyone. And then the other thing is I carry, a set of standard Allen keys. Yeah. Nearly every housing is put together with Allen keys, and those two together, I keep them in a tiny little Ziploc bag, and it just keeps them together, and they come on every trip. I actually usually put my O-ring grease as well in that same bag, and it's just a tiny little bag that goes in.
So something that goes well with that bag too are these. These are dental picks, so they're good if you happen to need to do some dentistry. But also they're really good for picking O-rings out of obscure places. These ones are made of plastic. It's important when you're using an O-ring pick that whatever pick you use is softer than whatever you're picking it out of. So for example, if you've got a plastic housing, it's very important you don't use a metal pick because you can scratch it and that can create a permanent leak around the O-ring surface. So these are ideal. Again, cheap, inexpensive. You can get them on eBay and other places, but go for the plastic ones, weigh nothing, and again fit in your little bag with your O-ring grease and your other tools very easily.
Yeah, and actually on that subject of the little bag, if you ever have access to any of those airline bags, my daughter really likes them actually. So when I run group trips, I always say to anyone who's coming on the trip, anyone who happens to be flying in business class, if you get given one of those little airline bags, keep it for me. And then because I want to give it to my daughter because she loves putting toys and things in them. Actually, every now and again, I steal the odd one from her supply because they're perfect for keeping all this small stuff in.
Yeah.
So that's a really good way to keep them together. The other thing I always travel with is some sort of stuff to fix stuff together with.
Yeah.
And two that I usually travel with is a small collection of cable ties, Ziploc ties.
Yeah.
You don't need to take 100, just a few of them. They've got some rubber bands around them which hold them together, but also might come in useful for fixing something. And this is some double-sided Gorilla sticky tape, and it's a really strong one, and it's actually really, really good for fixing various things. And I usually have a very small roll of black electrical tape as well, which is, I think those are really just useful things to have in that bag.
I actually wind some black electrical tape around my battery charger. So I just have a few wraps around there, and generally you don't need a lot of it for fixing stuff, and so I just have a little bit wrapped around my battery charger,
Something else that I usually take a little smattering of are little button batteries, little spares and accessories. Often I'll just take a range of different ones because this is something that might save someone else's trip, if not mine.
Yeah.
And they're very easy to buy. They're very cheap. Just get a few of them. I usually cut them right down to size, so I'm not even taking all this cardboard on them. And they just go as just sealed up with the plastic and a bit of cardboard on the back. And they're very valuable on trips and can really save either your trip or someone else's. And obviously, as someone leading trips, that's a big part of why I want to be taking bits on board.
I think if you do have devices that are powered by esoteric batteries of whatever description, I mean, so the button batteries are a good example. I think those are a really good example of something you should carry spares. If there are more remote parts of the world, you may be able to get them in every supermarket in where you live, but there's no guarantee you will be able to get them away. So if you know that your system requires a specific battery for a leak detector or whatever it may be, it's always worth packing one. As I say, as group leaders, Alex and I would normally try and carry as broad a variety as possible, but there's so many of them, it's almost impossible to carry one of each. So it's a good idea if you have your own space.
It really does depend on the destination. For example, lots of strobes run on AA's. Okay, you may not be able to find Eneloop Pros everywhere in the world, but it's pretty easy to find non-rechargeable AA's if it comes to it for someone on a trip. If they have a flood, because one of the problems of flooding is when you flood a strobe, they typically flood in the battery compartment. The strobe is fine, but the batteries are toast. And you then need a whole 4 new batteries for that particular strobe. So those are important to this. A couple of other kind of more unusual things that I tend to stick in are these, which I just got off Amazon, and they're contact cleaning brushes. And there's 3 strengths. It's kind of like a soft, a medium, and a coarse one. And they're just contact cleaners. That's the soft one. The one is a copper wire, and I think one is a steel wire brush. And they just got nice little controls at the back, so you can just wind them out of it. And it's a very good way. Dirty contacts, if you do have a flood in a strobe, the contacts tend to get very dirty. Toothpicks that you'll be able to get in the restaurant or on the liverboard. Wooden toothpicks are really good for cleaning that up. Plus water and maybe a bit of tissue paper. But these are really good for really finishing and getting those contacts clean. And because they're on a long brush, when you flood inside a strobe, it's the contacts at the bottom you can't clean. And these are longer than a AA, so you can stick them down and clean them out. The other thing that's really good for cleaning the inside of a strobe out is made by the Coca-Cola company. And Coke is actually, if needs must on a liverboard, pouring Coke inside a strobe with dirty contacts does an amazing job. What it does when you pour it down your throat, I'm less sure. But
and vinegar, you're probably more likely to have a can of Coke around than have a bottle of vinegar, a big bottle of vinegar. But both will do the job.
Then the last thing I got out to sort of show you for this was I regularly put these in my luggage as well. These are Novus So polishes, they're one of the different polishes that you can use for polishing up acrylic domes.
Yeah.
I often travel with glass domes rather than acrylic domes, but I tend to keep these in my bag anyway because they may not save my trip, but they may save someone else's trip.
Sure.
And I have to say I've spent many a trip polishing a big scratch out of someone's dome port with these on a trip, or with some micro mesh if someone else has had it, to help them save their trip. It can be a very daunting thing to do the first time you do it. When it's someone else's, it's actually often a lot easier. I'll take a better job. And actually, as a trip leader, I often say that to people, is actually, when you have a problem with your camera, before you start panicking, speak to me, even if you know you can fix it yourself. Because if you ask someone else's help, they're not emotionally involved, and they'll tend to make better decisions. Yeah. When it's your camera and you're just seeing like dollar signs flashing up in front of your head and a trip ruined, you tend to make very bad decisions about how to fix it. Yeah. Whereas someone else comes along and goes, oh, it's just that, click, and it's fixed. And
that can actually be in connection with settings and all sorts of other things as well. It's not only the mechanical stuff. Yeah.
But I think the other thing I would say is, do really think about what's likely to be available in the destination. I have many times fixed housings to make them work again after a heavy flood by resoldering all the insides for someone if they've had a flood on one of my workshops. And I'm rubbish at soldering, but all dive boats have a soldering, all liverboards certainly have a soldering iron. Yeah. We've ended up like getting like cables from electrical plugs, cutting them up and using those as temporary strobe sync cables. Yeah. And you only need two cables to make two wires to make a flash fire. Yep. And it's amazing what you can find when something's toast and you just need to find something to make it work again. So you'd be amazed what you can find. So it's really important to be resourceful, kind of to keep your gear working in the field. Which
is quite interesting. On the same note, Alex and I, just prior to coming online, we were discussing some of our tools, and I mentioned that I carried these lens cleaning tissues, to which Alex replied that he's wearing his lens cleaning tissues. So there we are. There we have another example of how to be resourceful and to not carry extra tools.
Yeah, no, lens cleaning tissues doesn't weigh anything, and you should travel with that, and you shouldn't use your t-shirt to clean your lenses. But I have to say that I would say all my award-winning pictures down the years have been taken with lenses cleaned with a t-shirt.
There we are. There you have it. So the secret of Alex's success is cleaning his lenses with his t-shirt. No, we'll not say that at all. Thank you very much, Alex.
No problem.
There's obviously lots and lots of Alex's imagery all over the place, but a good place to have a look is on his website, which is at
amustard.com.
There we are, nice and straightforward. We'll say goodbye to Alex. Cheers, Alex. I'd like to thank you all for watching. I'd like to thank our sponsor, which is XIT404 from California. Please subscribe to the channel if you'd like to get notifications for future episodes. And please like this video if you enjoyed it, and add any comments that you might have about the subject. Thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you soon.